All things Mavs.
And they'll reset. Nowitzki again for the lead. Bang!
Oh, baby, welcome in to another edition of the All Things Mavs podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, as always, Jimmy Crowther of All Things Mavs. This is your second day in a row with a podcast. I said when I first did my introduction pod that you would not have a daily podcast, but so far I've been pretty consistent. I would like to pat myself on the back. If you hear that, that's me patting myself on the back for getting you guys podcasts pretty regularly. But I have to say, this will probably be my last one for this week because I fly out to Vegas tomorrow night after work. So I got to go into Chat Sports, do some videos, do some work for them, and then fly out to Vegas tomorrow night, and I'm heading out to Summer League. So if you guys are there, hit me up. I've already had a few people message me, DM me, say, hey, I'm going to be there. Let's get a quick meetup. I definitely want to meet you. So let's do that. I'm all about it. Love interacting with you guys on social media and in real life. So I'm not just a social media floating head. Definitely want to meet as many of y'all as possible. Might even go out to that Mavs meetup, which Reddit Mavs is scheduling on Twitter. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. I didn't get to go to the last one, which sounded like a blast. It looked like a lot of fun, so I want to go out to this next one for sure. Before I get into today, I'll kind of give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be talking about. First off, actually, I'm going to tease the first one. I'm not going to tell you what the first topic is because it's a little surprise, because I'm surprised that I even have to talk about it. We're going to talk about Danny Green. There was a quote that came out today from Brad Townsend I want to talk about. We're going to talk about Reggie Bullock and that whole situation, and Marcus Morris. And then we're going to get into, I talked about it, that I said I was going to talk about it today on yesterday's podcast, but now I'm actually going to get into some of the guys that the Mavs could acquire via salary dump. And I'm really going to only get into the main ones. I'm not going to get into a bunch of little name guys that I think we could end up with. Just some of the main guys that have been some hot topics floating around Mavs universe, Mavs social media. So stay tuned. But before we get into them, I want to thank you all for watching on YouTube, all my podcasts. I guess you're listening on YouTube. There's no video, really. We've had, 3,000 views on a couple of them and so on. It's continued to grow there. If you're not subscribed already, big red button on YouTube, just hit it. Go ahead and subscribe, like all the podcasts, all the podcast videos. I really appreciate that. But I have to say, obviously I'm doing these on Anchor. This is how I built that. You hear the same annoying ad. I know you hear the Anchor ad kind of run through my podcast throughout. Thank you for listening to those. Definitely helps out the pod for sure. But I'm officially, not unofficially, I'm officially on Apple Podcasts. If I had streamers right now, I'd be throwing them up in the air and partying because it took forever to get verified, but I officially did it. And I want to shout out some people that rated and commented and reviewed that podcast on Apple, iTunes. If you want to do that, that would really help me. And I'll give you a shout out on the next pod if you do that. Leave a quick comment. So I got 3 quick comments I want to go through. First one is from Pinto. He just said some really nice stuff. Don't know who you are. Thanks for the review. Garrett also reviewed my podcast, and this is my favorite one. Favorite name. I'm not going to read all these because they're kind of long, but DJ Swaggy Thick Chungus. So Big Chungus checking out the All Things Mavs podcast. So shout out to all you guys for tuning in and for leaving comments, some good reviews. Go do that on Apple. Go subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. It would really help me out. And I'll continue to put out these pods if you like them. And if you subscribe, that means, hopefully that you like them. So let's start off with a little one. And this isn't directed at anybody, okay? I don't want anybody to get their feelings hurt because this is very broad. Because I had multiple, double-digit amount of people reach out to me on Twitter on All Things Mavs, whether it's DM or they mentioned me or they quote tweeted a tweet and said, why don't we go get this guy? And you're like, Jimmy, what guy are you talking about? Well, earlier tonight, this is Tuesday night, Shaun Livingston has officially been bought out or waived of his contract at 33 years old. And Mavs fans were actually asking me if the Mavs should go get him or why we aren't even rumored or connected to him. And I was perplexed That is the best word I can think of. That is one of my favorite words that's not used enough in the English dictionary. I was perplexed at the idea that people actually wanted Shaun Livingston on the Dallas Mavericks. Outside of championship experience, I do not know what he brings to this team. There is no use for Shaun Livingston on the Dallas Mavericks. He cannot shoot the three. Actually, no, it's not even that he can't. He doesn't. He won't. It's like Ben Simmons. He literally won't even try. He attempted two last season. He's 33 years old last season. He didn't make either of them. Look, as an off-the-bench point guard for certain teams, yeah, he's great. But we already have, our defensive-minded, not a super great three-point threat in DeLon Wright. Even though I think DeLon Wright, actually I don't think, DeLon Wright is better than Shaun Livingston is at this point in his career. By a mile. It's not even close. I think, and DeLon Wright can actually make a three. Like, you have to guard him if he's on the three. Shaun Livingston would not bring anything to this Dallas team. I don't want to see his name pop up ever again in association with the Mavs because it makes absolutely no sense. Let him go chase some kind of title somewhere else, okay? I don't have anything against Shaun Livingston. I just don't think there is any place for him on the Dallas Mavericks. And if you disagree, let me know and give me some logical reasoning because everybody that mentioned Shaun Livingston to me was just like, let's go get him. That's not how this works. You don't just go get whoever becomes available. That's not how it works. But one guy that was available, nice transition, Jimmy, was Danny Green. Not available anymore. Obviously, committed to the Los Angeles Lakers for a lot of money. I mean, he got a really good contract that I know some Mavs fans would have given to him. I think it was 2 years, $30 million, I believe. So $15 million per year. And Dallas didn't offer that to him. They were standing pat at 3 years, $36 million. Take that how you will, but the good thing is that Danny Green was not using the Mavericks as leverage. Brad Townsend put this tweet out early this morning. He said, not early, I guess it was 9 a.m., so not super early, but not that it matters now. This is a quote tweet from Brad. But I'm told that Danny Green told the Mavs he was not returning to Toronto, even if Leonard came back to the Raptors. His choices always were the Lakers or Dallas. Had Leonard chosen the Lakers, Green would be a Maverick. Even if so, Dallas planned to pursue DeLon Wright. And, it kind of hurts. I commented a nice GIF. If you think it's GIF, you're wrong. It's GIF. I tweeted a GIF at Brad of a little boy crying because that's how I felt when I read that. Because we did have a legitimate shot at him. We really did. And had Paul George not gone to the Clippers, I truly believe Kawhi Leonard would be a Laker and Danny Green would be a Dallas Maverick, and then we would have a starting five of DeLon Wright, Danny Green, Luka, Porzingis, and Powell. And you can argue whether that's better or not than what we have right now. I think it is because of the versatility of Danny Green alongside the defensive versatility of DeLon Wright, plus the rim protection that Porzingis brings. But he's long gone, so that's that. But Cuban did say, so he was at Summer League. By the way, if I run into Cuban, I'm gonna try to talk to him. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna be wearing Mavs shirts at Summer League, so maybe he gives me a second to talk. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna challenge him. Like, some of these people have been challenging Mark Cuban on Twitter. Like, just stop, please stop, and just like thank the guy for getting us Luka Doncic and for having Dirk Nowitzki on the team for 21 years, I guess I should say. Like, don't challenge Cuban on Twitter. There's just no point. You're not going to win. Okay? Cuban, despite what all of us think about how we can run the Mavs, Cuban is smarter than all of us, okay? But anyway, Cuban did say that the Mavs only missed out on one guy. And did I love those comments from Mark? No, not at all. He kind of made some comments about people on Twitter. He said there was too much drama, and really we only missed out on one guy that we wanted, which I don't believe, because we definitely had cap space left over that I don't think we intended to have left over. But I really believe now that one guy was Danny Green, if it's true that we only missed out on one. Obviously our cap is still wide open. We still have $14 million available because the only thing we've made official is the trade with DeLon Wright. And I think we had to make that official because the Memphis Grizzlies were probably ready to get that sign and trade done so they could go out and get Tyus Jones. So that wasn't really our choice. But I think stuff is still in the works for a trade. You could be listening to this Wednesday, and there could already be a trade, or that could just come out that we didn't make a trade and our roster's set. And you know what? It is what it is at this point. Like, I'm not going to be upset if this is what our roster looks like. So, kind of interesting stuff with Danny Green. It did sound like he was truly interested in the Mavericks, and that was something that Mavs fans were weary about. Hey, is this guy using Dallas's leverage again? I thought he might be. His buddy Harrison Sanford, I looked at his follower count after Danny Green committed to the Lakers, and he dropped by like 700, 800 followers, I'm pretty sure, because he was feeding us all the Danny Green information. And then once we didn't need that anymore, Harrison Sanford became kind of useless to us. But nice guy. I got to interact with him a little bit, so I don't hold anything against him. Danny Green, long gone. So that was probably the Dallas' one guy, and they missed out on him. And it is what it is, you know? But another guy who is now available, who could potentially be that replacement for Danny Green, is Reggie Bullock. And you're like, Jimmy, Reggie Bullock, I love talking to myself because this is a single-person podcast, even though I will have guests eventually. I know I promised that, but I haven't done it yet because I like just talking and rambling and not having anyone interrupt me sometimes. But you're like, Jimmy, Reggie Bullock just committed to signing with the New York Knicks along with like 18 other people that are somewhat okay. But today, Woj tweeted out something really interesting. New report this morning, I guess early this afternoon, says, the New York Knicks and free agent Reggie Bullock are reworking an original 2-year, $21 million deal, with both sides motivated to find an agreement with new terms. Agent David Bowman, however you say his name, and the Knicks are reevaluating Bullock's fitness to play a full season in 2019-20. Now, the last part's really interesting because obviously there's something wrong with the guy. And I looked up his injuries. Really, the only stuff he ever suffered from this past season with the Lakers, I mean, it wasn't just little stuff. I mean, he definitely had injuries. He had neck tightness that kept him out for a couple games, plantar fasciitis, and then foot contusions, which basically means he had like a bruised foot or something. So I don't know what this is. Like, did he just get fat? Like, did he just after the Lakers missed the playoffs, did Reggie Bullock just put on a bunch of weight? Is he just chubby? Does he have some random back issue like Michael Porter Jr.? Does he have heart issues that might come out like Brandon Ingram or Chris Bosh? Or is this literally just plantar fasciitis is acting up and he might, miss training camp? There's definitely concern. I mean, $21 million per year over 2 years is $10.5 million per year. I didn't just do that math in my head, even though it's probably simple. I made sure I did it before, so I didn't waste time doing math on this podcast. Obviously, there are question marks with his health. But something tells me that it can't be enough to keep teams from shying away from him. Now, maybe they shy away from $10.5 million. But until it comes out, what is actually wrong with him, which has to leak eventually. The Knicks are the worst at keeping anything under wraps. So surely they'll leak something soon. We'll see what happens there. But should they, decide not to offer him a new contract because they apparently have $15 million on the table for Marcus Morris after his whole back out with the Spurs, which, pause on Reggie Bullock for a second. I'm not going to say that I'm extremely ecstatic that Marcus Morris backed out on the Spurs, but I'm extremely ecstatic that Marcus Morris backed out on the Spurs. I could not care less about the Spurs, trading away Davis Bertans. They cleared cap space. They used the sign and trade for DeMar Carroll just so they could get Marcus Morris. Hey, anything that screws the Spurs over because they're a team that's going to be fighting for the 8th seed is fine by me. You lose a great shooter in Davis Bertans or Davis Bertans. I hear it on 2K as Davis Bertans, but I'm pretty sure it's just Davis Bertans. I mean, he was going into the All-Star break. I think he had the best three-point percentage in the league as a big man. He's a power forward / center. And they traded him away for room to sign Marcus Morris, who is now sitting on a $15 million offer from the Knicks. So Bullock backs out of his deal with the Knicks. Marcus Morris backs out of his deal with the Spurs. And now Reggie Bullock becomes available. Now, I don't think Marcus Morris is really available. Dallas can't even pay him $15 million right now anyway, unless they stretch and waive Courtney Lee, which we're all still waiting on that to happen. But Reggie Bullock is available. 6'7". He is a wing. You can play him shooting guard, power forward. He's probably more adept at playing the shooting guard role. He's not an incredible defender. He's not a terrible defender. I wouldn't call him a liability. Oh, never mind. I saw his NBA debut is October 29th. I thought that said his birthday. That's my birthday. So I was like, oh, well, it's destiny. He has to come here. But look, defense is not a strength. I wouldn't call it a weakness. You're not going to sign him because he can play defense. You're going to sign him because he can score the ball. He can shoot the ball. And that's really about it. Like, that is his main goal. He stayed fairly healthy this past season, playing 63 games. So I don't think this injury is going to be that big of a deal at the end of the day. Maybe it's just a big enough deal to keep him away from giving him $10.5 million. This last season, when he was with Detroit, he shot 38.8% from three. That's really, really good. Close to, if you're close to 40%, you're above average in the NBA. Then he went to the Lakers. His workload got a little heavier, but it was only in 19 games. He shot 34.3% from three. So it obviously took a dip. 34.3. Did I say 43? Whatever I said. It's 34.3. So his 3-point percentage took a little bit of a hit when he went to LA. And look, I looked it up. I looked at some stuff from Pistons fans, and they were like, they didn't want to trade Reggie Bullock away. I mean, he's only 27. We just paid DeLon Wright for 3 years, who's 27. Reggie Bullock's pretty good. I mean, he addresses a need in shooting. He's not a defensive liability. I think you could even argue that he could start right now, but the defense would kind of take a hit if he is starting, I think. But look, I mean, I don't know what Reggie Bullock's going to command after this whole injury debacle. I don't think he'll be getting $10.5 million again, which is good for Dallas because they're the only team with cap space, despite the Knicks now, who have cap space, but they're about to spend it all on Marcus Morris for whatever reason. Dear Lord. Fire James Dolan. But look, Bullock, if he wants close to that 10.5, like if he wants 8-ish, like the Mavs are the team. Now, I haven't heard anything about their link to him in any way, shape, or form. This is not like me reporting anything. This is me just throwing out an idea that Reggie Bullock kind of makes some sense for Dallas. Now, maybe he's a little redundant with Tim Hardaway Jr. They're not the same player. Not the same player at all. Tim Hardaway is a chucker. He shoots the ball as many times as possible. When he touches it, the ball's going up. Reggie Bullock is a pretty efficient three-point shooter, I would say. And, he can get to the rim as well in some cases. I do like Reggie Bullock a lot. It's just my question becomes, what is his fit? What does the lineup look like? Because if you go, let's say he comes off the bench and you start Justin Jackson, for example. So you go DeLon, and I don't think that's the starting lineup. This is just an idea. So you go DeLon Wright, Luka Doncic, Justin Jackson, Kristaps Porzingis, and Dwight Powell. That's your starting five. I'm going to write this down as I go so I don't forget what I'm saying. Actually, trying to think on my feet here. It's not working really well for me. Anyway, that's your starting five. So then your backups are Seth Curry, Jalen Brunson. Like, those two have to get minutes in the backup role. Maxi Kleba has to get minutes in the backup role. And then it's like you have Reggie Bullock there. You have Tim Hardaway Jr. there. You've just paid Dorian Finney-Smith. He's there. J.J. Barea is still there, his minutes, I think, will be significantly reduced. And that's 12. I mean, that's 12 guys. Then there's Boban, who I didn't even mention, who I want to see play depending on the matchups, 10 to 20 minutes a night. I don't know if he'll always get that. I think he could, there's going to be nights, again, where he doesn't play. There's going to be nights where he plays a ton. So that's 13. So does Reggie Bullock, and then Courtney Lee is there, but I mean, if they're going to sign Bullock, I think they just stretch and waive Courtney Lee. But I mean, if he's available, I think you throw some money at him. Now, this is, of course, after they've established that any trade ideas are dead. Like, anything that they could get in a salary or whatever is dead. Then you go after Reggie Bullock, and maybe you give him $8 million. Maybe, heck, if they have $14 million to spend, give him 10. I don't know, maybe. That's just an idea. Maybe it's a little out there. But I like Bullock. I think he makes some sense for the Mavs. But I also do see where there are some question marks because you got Hardaway. You've got Justin Jackson. You got Dorian Finney-Smith. You've got Seth Curry. You've got Jalen Brunson, of course, who's not the same role at all. Like, Jalen Brunson's specifically a point guard. Like, that is his role. He is your backup point guard. Some nights he'll start. I can't wait to see what Jalen Brunson does. I think he is just a bargain on this rookie contract for the next 3 years. Love the guy. So his minutes won't be gone. Jalen and Maxi Kleba, they will not have any minutes taken away from them by anybody this next season, I don't think. Then it's like, who do you choose between? Maybe you go, there's Finney-Smith, there's Justin Jackson, there's Boban. If you add, and then Tim Hardaway Jr., and then if you add Reggie Bullock, I don't know how you distribute the minutes. Luckily, I'm not the coach. I don't have to decide that. Reggie Bullock also isn't on the team right now, but if he did end up in Dallas, I wouldn't be upset about it. Another good three-point shooter to add around Luka Doncic can't hurt at all. But now, I want to take a look at some potential trade targets. And there's nobody that Dallas is really going to be looking at that they just straight up trade for. I don't think. Because they don't really have the pieces to just say, hey, we're going to trade for this guy. Nobody really wants to take on Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract. Nobody's really interested in trading for Courtney Lee, I don't think. Jalen Brunson, great trade piece. I don't think Dallas wants to trade him. I don't want to see Dallas trade him. Dwight Powell, good trade piece. I think the Mavs like him too much to just give him away. And then everybody else, you either just re-signed or you're about to sign. So, yeah. Not a lot to give up. No first-round picks. It's second-rounders. We got a ton of second-rounders. And Tim Hardaway is probably your best trade chip that you'd probably like to give away, or that you'd be okay with giving away. Justin Jackson is a trade piece. Again, Mavs like him. They really do. So, where these trades come from, if you're out of the loop, if you haven't been paying attention, Dallas has a buttload of cap space. I don't know what the actual numerical value of a buttload is, but they got a lot of it. They got $14 million, so they can take on salary in a potential deal that's centered around Russell Westbrook. I think if there is a Russell Westbrook deal that goes down within the next week, the Mavs will be one of the teams involved that take on bad salary. Now, I've seen the Cleveland Cavaliers linked to them, but the Cavaliers don't have cap space. They have to get under they want to get under the salary tax as well, so they're not going to be looking to take on cap. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Take on more money. I don't understand that. I saw that floated around by a Miami Heat beat writer, Sam Amico, shot it down, said it's not true. I don't think it is true. I think Dallas is really the only team that makes sense to take on salary dumps. Atlanta, I think, has a little bit of cap space left. They might not anymore after trading for Turner, Crabbe, and Chandler Parsons. So it's like, hey, where do you want to put your salary? Give it to Dallas. And there are, let's see how many names I got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names that I've got on my list right now. And I'm not saying any of these are actually going to happen, because some of them are kind of out there. But these are the names that have been floated around that I think if they get dumped, they make some sense. Now, let me mention 3 that I don't have on this list. Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and Clint Capella. Because I don't think Russell Westbrook is going to be on the Rockets next year. If he is, I think that'll be an absolute nightmare. But if he does go to the Rockets, it's going to somehow they're going to have to dump at least 1 or 2 of those guys. And sign me up for PJ Tucker all day. I like Eric Gordon. I like Clint Capella, but I'm liking him less and less as this offseason goes on, because it's like, he's becoming less and less playable. But I'd still take him. I'd take any of those 3 guys in a trade as a salary dump. So that's Houston. Don't really see us trading for any of those guys. That's why I don't really have them on this list that I want to go more in depth in. But first, I'll tell you all the names. I'll go name by name, and then I'm going to rank how I'd want them to go. Kind of like, I think the Locked On Mavs guys did this today or yesterday, whenever it was, about guys they would like to take on. So I'm going to do that as well, but I'm going to have different names on here. And the first one's Aaron Gordon. And that may come as a shock to you guys, but the Magic have been linked to Russ very, very vaguely, mainly by fan websites. So probably not a whole lot of realistic situations here. But let's say there's a trade package centered around Mo Bamba, Markelle Fultz, Orlando's like first round picks, and maybe like a Jonathan Isaac. I think that's a little bit too much to give up at that point. And they send those to Oklahoma City. Well, then Orlando gets Russell Westbrook's huge contract, and they only dump 2 rookie contracts. So you got to move some money. You can't move Terrence Ross because you just signed him. I mean, I guess they could technically. I don't think you can do that. They just re-signed Vucevic. They don't want to move him. Al-Farouq Aminu is making a good chunk of money. You can't trade him. You just signed him. So that leaves Aaron Gordon. Now, he's got a pretty good contract left, but it's all backloaded. And what that means is it's front loaded, excuse me. So he made all of his money in the very beginning of his contract, which he signed, I think, 2 years ago. And as the years go on, his money will go down. So he signed a 4-year, $84 million deal in 2018. That was last season, excuse me. And it's going to kind of start to go down because that's kind of how oh my gosh, I just had a voice crack so bad. I would edit that out, but I'm going to keep it real, authentic for you guys so you guys can hear all my flaws. Anyway, Aaron Gordon, if you trade for him, you're getting a small forward in a almost like a power forward in a small forward's body with power forward's athleticism. He became a respectable three-point shooter this past season at 34.9%, 16 points per game. But what the guy's known for, and good rebounder too, 7.4. He's also a versatile defender. Stays relatively healthy. This past season, he played in 78 games. I love Aaron Gordon. I just don't think Orlando gives him up in just a straight-up salary dump. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But if he does, if they need to move salary, Aaron Gordon's probably the guy. And Dallas could put him in the starting 5 at the 3. He could go small ball 4 with Porzingis at the 5. And then floor spacing becomes a question. Because then you only have 2 good three-point shooters on the wing in Luka Doncic and Porzingis. You have a solid three-point shooter in Aaron Gordon. You have a respectable three-point shooter now in Dwight Powell. And you have a shaky three-point shooter in DeLon Wright. So that's my biggest question mark there with Aaron Gordon. But I'd be all about it, personally. Just because it's him. Number 2 and 3, I've got 2 Thunder guys. Steven Adams and Danilo Gallinari. Now, Steven Adams has been floated out there so much. And there's people that don't like the idea of trading for him or taking him on in a salary. But I would take him every day of the week. You get a rim protector next to Porzingis, you get a rebounder next to Porzingis, and you get a bruiser next to Porzingis. Those are the 3 things you need alongside Kristaps. And that's what Steven Adams brings you. Now, he can't stretch the floor at all whatsoever. Not much of a threat to score unless it's on a lob or in transition. He actually runs the floor pretty well for a big man. Catches lobs, does all that good stuff. And he can play his back to the basket, but nobody in the NBA really runs that anymore. But Steven Adams could be a salary dump if OKC wants to continue to shed salary. And then Danilo Gallinari. Now, Gallinari in Dallas, oh my gosh. He's huge. I mean, he played the power forward position so much last season. At 6'10", you kind of have to play him at power forward. But he can play the small forward position. He can't guard small forwards, but he can play at small forward. 19.8 points per game. That's ridiculous. 6 rebounds. 2.6 assists. He shot 43.3% from 3. And he's shooting 5.5 per game. Gallinari is outside of his lack of defense, and he's not even a horrible defender. Gallinari would be perfect, man. Now, he has had injury issues. He tore his ACL back in 2013. He only played in 21 games in 2018, but 2019 he played 68 games. So he was fully healthy, just about. Look, if the Thunder don't want to keep him, obviously they just acquired him in that trade for the Clippers. Give me Gallo. But there was something that Woj tweeted out, and they're like, hey, they just traded Jeremy Grant to the Denver Nuggets. That's why they acquired Danilo Gallinari, which didn't make a lot of sense to me because Gallinari's 30 years old. And you want him to start at power forward? Why? You're entering rebuild mode. Why do you want a 30-year-old that's got a bunch of money left on his books? Big money, I guess I should say, left on his books. So yeah, Gallinari is definitely a candidate, I think, there for a salary dump to Dallas, because really I think they're like the only team that can actually take him on. Now I think he has $21 million left on his contract, which means you have to stretch and waive Courtney Lee, and that goes for most of these guys, honestly. But again, that's not a problem. The Mavs should do that, probably would do that pretty happily. Now another guy, Goran Dragic, a name that is all too familiar now with the Dallas Mavericks after all of the trade debacle that went down on, God, was that the second day of free agency? That feels like 3-4 weeks ago. It just happened. And obviously we don't need a point guard anymore. Like, DeLon Wright is going to be our point guard. We have a ball handler in Luka Doncic. We don't need Dragic. But if he comes available just in a salary dump, like that's all it is, I think you got to take it. I think you have to pounce on Goran Dragic. I know he's older, but he's only got 1 year left on his deal. I know he's been hurt, but 2 years ago he was an all-star. And I know he might need the ball in his hands, but he doesn't. He really doesn't. He actually does not. He played off the ball really well with Luka. He can play off the ball 100%. And I think the main reason you take him on is because he's a mentor to Luka Doncic. Like, that's what he is. And if Luka wants him on our team, then I want him on our team. And I think that should go for most Mavs fans. If Luka Doncic wants somebody on his team, for the most part, if you can make it happen, you usually just make it happen. And if it's someone like Dragic who can also be effective and you can start him at the 1 and play DeLon Wright at the 2, it's pretty interesting. I would take it in a straight-up salary dump. I think Dragic is a good player still. I think he's productive. When he got healthy, he was productive. Obviously, he's not worth his contract at this point in his career. But look, 2 years ago, I mean, he's stayed healthy. Besides this past season, he has been healthy most of his career. Well, not most, but a good chunk of his career. 2 years ago, he's an all-star. He scored 17.3 points per game. He dished out 4.8 assists per game, and he was shooting the ball 37% from 3. Like, Dragic is a good player still. I know that was 2 years ago, but if he's healthy, I think he's a good contributor on this team, on any team, really. And as a salary dump, I thought we had him just a little bit ago. I really did, and I was excited about it. I think we can get excited about it again if it happens. But I don't think that's likely. I really don't think it's likely at all, because we have our point guard now. There's just not as much of a need as there was to start out this offseason. Now, not number two. What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are 2 Timberwolves. The Timber Puppies. It's Robert Covington, number 1. And Robert Covington fits like literally everything that this Dallas Maverick team needs. He is an incredible defender. Like, he can defend small forwards, shooting guards, power forwards. He's still 28 years old, which is a little older than I think most people might think. This past season, in his time with Minnesota, once he got dealt there from Philadelphia, 14.5 points per game, shooting 37.2% from 3. He's a good rebounder, 5.7 rebounds per game. His steals, 2.3, and blocks, 1.1. Robert Covington would fit Dallas like a glove. He would easily fill in at the 3 spot. Easily. In some minutes, sometimes he could probably play the 4, but you don't really need him to do that. He immediately becomes a starting forward alongside Luka, DeLon Wright, and Porzingis and Powell. That lets Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway, Justin Jackson, Jalen Brunson, Maxi Kleba all come off the bench together. Boban sometimes as well. Tim Hardaway sometimes. I think I mentioned him, but great. It'd just be so good. And it'd be another salary dump, if the Timberwolves want to dump salary, and this is, so I kind of skipped over the fact that Dragic obviously would include a trade, Oklahoma City trades Russell Westbrook to the Miami Heat. Now, in this one, it's a little outlandish because I don't think the Timberwolves will be trading at all for Russell Westbrook, because I think they got their eyes set on D'Angelo Russell. But if they can land Russell Westbrook, then you have to give up either Covington, I think, or Andrew Wiggins. And that's the next name on my list. If you still believe in Andrew Wiggins, like some people do, not a lot, the breed of Andrew Wiggins believers is dying, slowly but surely. But, he's never been hurt. I mean, 82, 81, 82, 82, 73 games played over his 5-year career now. It's just the fact that he has this ridiculous contract that he's not going to live up to, or he's not living up to right now. Now, if he were still on a rookie deal, maybe if he were making $10 million, I don't know, even $15 million per year, people would be happy. 18.1 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 2.5 assists, a steal, 3-point percentage at 33.9% is respectable. But look, the deal is the dude doesn't play defense. He is very disinterested on the court. He is limited with his pretty skinny frame, and he's not worth the contract. He's just not. Like, he simply is not worth his deal. But a change of scenery is going to do Andrew Wiggins good. I truly believe that. Now, do I believe it should be Dallas? No. But could I sell myself on the idea of Andrew Wiggins to Dallas? Yes. It would take a lot, and it would take some convincing. But if it happened, here's how I would sell myself. He's 23. He has 4 years until he reaches his peak. You let him develop alongside Luka. If he gets a 3-point shot, if he plays defense, or not even if he gets a 3-point shot, if he continues to shoot where he's at, if he attacks aggressively and he learns to play defense, Wiggins is going to be really good. He's just not right now. He's not worth his deal right now. He was given the deal he has based on his potential alone, which is always a mistake. You don't pay people based on their potential. Like, Minnesota literally was like, "Hey, Andrew Wiggins, do you promise? Like, do you promise to be a good? Like, do you promise to work really hard and I'll give you this contract?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." Didn't work hard. Still puts up 18 points per game. Just super inefficient. I mean, that's just how Wiggins is. He's an inefficient scorer. Dallas doesn't really need more of that. But Wiggins is young. If it happened, I could sell myself. I'm just not going to advocate for that. So let's rank them in order of who I like the most to who I would dislike the most in a salary dump. And we'll start with the worst. Like, I don't want Andrew Wiggins. Straight up. Like, I don't want him. That's number, what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 guys. He's number 6 on my list. Number 7, I'd probably say Aaron Gordon. I like Aaron Gordon a lot. I think he's super fun. I would have loved him last season on this team had we signed him. But now it makes a little less sense because he's not. I mean, his fit is super weird. So, kind of out on the Aaron Gordon idea. Number 3, I'm going to say Goran Dragic. I like Dragic again. Again, this is number 3, so he's right in the middle of the pack. I would love Dragic simply because of his fit with Luka, the chemistry that he brings, the veteran point guard presence that he is. But we have a point guard now, so it's a little less of a need. Number 2, I'm going to say Steven Adams. And it was really hard for me to decide between Steven Adams and Danilo Gallinari. But I think Adams makes less sense. He fills less needs than Gallinari does because Gallinari is immediately a 3-point shooter. He fills, that forward position. Maybe he comes off the bench, whatever it is. That's who I like the most in that order. So it goes Gallo, Adams, Dragic. Oh, I forgot about Covington. I'd put Covington 2. Maybe even 1 because I think he's got the smallest salary on all of this. You can make the argument either way for Robert Covington, 2 or 1 on my top 6 list here for trade targets. Now, most likely to least likely. Most likely to happen, I think, is actually Gallinari. I really do. I think Dallas would have interest, and I think that the Thunder would be interested in moving him. Second, most likely, I'd say Dragic because of his availability. Third most likely, I'd probably say Covington. Then I'd say Wiggins. And then I'd say Adams and then Dragic. Or not Dragic, excuse me. Aaron Gordon. I don't think Aaron Gordon's available right now. And I don't think Dallas would look to trade him. But that's my list. Let me know on Twitter or in the YouTube comments section. Maybe if you want to leave me a review, if you want to get shouted out on the show, what you think of my list. If you love it, if you hate it, put it down there. Tell me. But yeah, it's probably my last podcast for the week. Now, next week, I'll be right back with you guys. Unless something big happens and I get on an emergency pod, I'll let you know. But thank you guys for tuning in to the All Things Mavs podcast once again.